Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. The romantic comedy that my wife Lily and I had just finished watching finally ended, and it felt like an eternity had passed. I had drunk more beer than I probably should have, but when I collapsed next to her, she didn't seem to mind. Still, I couldn't quite figure out what she thought about the film. "I just don't understand, Alexander. How could the husband be so unforgiving, refusing to pardon his wife over such a trivial matter?" she asked, her face full of confusion. "Are you joking?" I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. "That wasn't some small mistake. She cheated on him, Lily. Any wife who does that deserves consequences. It's completely unacceptable no matter how you look at it. It's cruel and heartless." Lily sighed heavily. "A man who truly loves his wife would be more forgiving. Just because she made a mistake doesn't mean she doesn't care about him. It just means her feelings weren't strong enough. A wife who cheats shows that she doesn't respect her husband and doesn't care about the humiliation she's caused him, even if it's not visible on the surface. He will always feel less important in her eyes." "And what if she didn't mean for it to come across that way?" I countered. "Her intentions don't change anything, Lily. What matters is that she broke the trust, and there should be consequences for that." "That's ridiculous, Alexander. I can't believe you're stuck in such outdated views." "There's nothing outdated about expecting loyalty," I replied sharply. "Infidelity can't be justified. If the wife confesses before the husband finds out, maybe they can work through it. But if he catches her lying and she denies it, she deserves all his anger. Most husbands don't even realize what's happening until it's too late." "We're going in circles," she said, clearly irritated. "I'm going to bed." She got up and left, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Earlier that day, we had spent several hours wandering through supermarkets and sales. I hadn't minded tagging along with her. There was always something to catch my eye while Lily searched for her favorite old rusty ironing board holders. The more worn out they were, the more she liked them. We were both saving every penny, trying to make our dream come true, to buy our first house. Of course, it had to have a big kitchen where she could display her growing collection of holders. We had been married for 10 years, though we had dated even longer. She's short, slightly plump, and I often joked about her perfect hips for childbirth. We had grand plans to start a family as soon as we settled into our new home. All we had left to do was save up enough for the down payment. But now, that conversation wouldn't leave my mind. Lily had oddly defended infidelity during our talk. It was a subject we had never discussed before, and to be honest, it had never crossed my mind. But now the thought was stuck in my head. Most of the guys I work with keep their wives under control. And me? I'd always trusted Lily completely. I never doubted her loyalty. I had never cheated on her, and I couldn't imagine that she would cheat on me. But something about that conversation left me uneasy. It wouldn't hurt to dig a little deeper, I thought. Not that I really expected to find anything, but curiosity got the better of me. My job kept me busy from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Lily worked from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., leaving me with little time alone in the mornings. The next day, I finished early, around 10 a.m., and decided to stop by home. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but it felt like I was about to start some kind of secret investigation, like I was searching for hidden treasure. As soon as I entered the apartment, I was hit by an overwhelming, unfamiliar smell. It was air freshener, and there was too much of it. The entire place reeked of it. I walked through the rooms, breathing in, trying to figure out what had happened. Eventually, I made it to the living room and noticed the fireplace. The hearth was spotless, as if it had just been cleaned, and the bricks were still slightly damp with soot. If Lily had burned something to hide evidence, she probably would have taken everything else with her to work. But maybe she wasn't as careful as I thought. I rummaged through the garbage in the garage and found something, a plastic seal from our trash can. I emptied its contents onto the kitchen table, spreading out old newspapers. It was time to see what secrets might be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. The burnt remnants were mostly soot and ash, though among them remained a few charred scraps of paper and scorched photographs. I wish I could say I found something meaningful in the wreckage, but I didn't. What I knew for sure was that she had deliberately destroyed these things so I wouldn't discover what they contained. The only conclusion I could draw was that she had something she wanted to hide. And after our conversation the previous evening, a growing sense of unease began to take root inside me. Lily had been the center of my life for as long as I could remember, and we had planned so much for the future. But now it seemed I had missed the signs, the subtle hints that had been right in front of me all along. There were parts of her life she had never shared with me. Suddenly, I realized I knew almost nothing about her work or the people she spent her days with. It had never even occurred to me to ask. But now she had my full attention. On my way to work, I stopped by an electronics store and bought 3 voice-activated digital recorders, along with extra batteries. When I contacted the phone company, they had no trouble providing me with call logs for both of our phones for the past 4 months. I told them it was for a tax audit, and since the request involved both numbers, it raised no suspicions. After reviewing my own calls, I destroyed the logs at the office, not wanting to leave any traces. It was the first time in our entire marriage that I allowed myself to think poorly of Lily. The thought left a bitter taste, but I couldn't shake it. That day, I came home a few hours earlier than she did, which gave me plenty of time to carefully hide the recorders. I placed one in the living room, another in our bedroom, and the third in the kitchen, making sure it wouldn't pick up the constant hum of the refrigerator. The next morning, I activated the recorders before leaving for work. By the time Lily got home that evening, dinner was already on the table. "Hey, honey, I made chili for dinner. I hope that's okay," I said, trying to keep things casual. "Sounds good," she replied. "Just hope it's not too spicy." Halfway through dinner, a thought struck me. "By the way," I began, "when I got home earlier, there was this strange smell in the house, kind of a mix of flowers and burnt plastic. What did you burn in the fireplace this morning?" She tensed, realizing she'd been caught off guard. Trying to brush it off, she said, "Nothing important, just some old papers and stuff from school." But I didn't believe her. "Why did you burn them?" I asked. "You could have just thrown them in the trash or shredded them. You cleaned the fireplace so thoroughly, like you didn't want anyone to notice." Her irritation became obvious. "Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" she snapped. "It was just old papers. Why are you being so paranoid?" I looked at her, keeping my voice calm. "They didn't look like school papers, Lily. More like letters and photographs. What did you really burn?" Then she lost it. "Are you serious? You went through the ashes just to accuse me of something, really?" she yelled, her anger boiling over. "Forget about it. You're doing the dishes tonight. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed. You can sleep on the couch." Lily had never spoken to me like that before. But then again, I had never questioned her like this before either. As soon as I heard the water running in the shower, I seized the moment to grab her phone and quickly recorded all the numbers from her speed dial, recent calls, and saved messages. I transferred her contact list to a file on my computer in just a few minutes. Sleeping on the couch didn't bother me, but the smell of lilacs mixed with burnt debris made it hard to breathe. The next day, I took a sick day. I left the house as usual, making sure to turn on all the recorders before I left. But instead of going to work, I spent the day at a cafe, just waiting. When I returned home around 8 p.m., I immediately sat down to listen to the recordings. Lily had made one phone call. "Things are getting a little difficult at home," she said. "No, it's not serious. He suspects, but he doesn't know what's really going on. He's becoming a real problem. I think I can manage. Friday seems like a doable deadline, most likely. See you then." I still didn't know who was on the other end of the line, but I suspected I wouldn't stay in the dark for long. What exactly was supposed to happen on Friday? That question lingered as I spent the morning at the library, going through her call logs. I could have done this at home, but the telephone directories available here were far more reliable and faster than anything I could find online. Of course, they were useless for tracking mobile numbers. I managed to rule out most of the numbers by matching them with known contacts or entries in her address book. But one number stood out. It was linked to a contact labeled MT. Not only was this number saved in her phone book, but it was also on her speed dial list. A second entry with the same initials pointed to a landline, Michael Taylor's number. I knew him, Lily worked with him, and we had met a few times. The last time was at a corporate event about 2 weeks ago. I recalled how Michael and Lily had spent most of that evening together, practically glued to one another. That memory made me uneasy, especially since Michael was there with his wife, a petite brunette who, like me, didn't seem to be enjoying the evening much. I began piecing together a timeline, noting every instance Lily called Michael over the past 4 months, as well as the times he called her. Oddly, there were no text messages from him. This morning, I was almost certain it was his number Lily had dialed. Despite the growing number of calls, I hesitated to jump to conclusions. After making copies of the call logs, I decided to head straight to Michael Taylor's house. I had nothing to lose, so I knocked on his door. "Alexander Singh, right? What brings you here?" "Good afternoon," I replied. "I was hoping we could talk." "Please come in," she said, clearly surprised by my sudden appearance. "This is unexpected. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage." She introduced herself as Isabella, Michael's wife, and extended her hand to me. I shook it, though my thoughts were elsewhere. And then, without warning, she struck me with her words. "Alexander, I think it's time we talked about the affair between your wife and my husband." Her words hit me like a bolt from the blue. I hadn't expected this turn of events. She clearly understood the situation better than I did. "I'm filing for divorce and plan to name Lily in the documents. I have enough evidence and I think we could help each other." "Isabella, I'm not here to complicate your life. I only found out about this yesterday and I have almost nothing, just the call logs." "Show me," she said more firmly than I expected. I handed her a copy of the records. She flipped through the pages with the precision of a seasoned detective, making notes and comparing them with the documents she had. The corners of her mouth twitched occasionally, as if she found something absurd in the situation. The deeper she delved into the details, the more animated she became. Finally, I interrupted her. "Do you have anything you could share?" "Of course," she replied, sliding a few documents over to me. "Here's everything I've uncovered over the past few weeks." In front of me lay 3 motel receipts, each carefully marked with a date, time, and location. All were from different motels, and the payments had been made in cash. "This fool doesn't even realize I check his pockets every night after he falls asleep. I take the receipts and he's none the wiser. In his world, I'm practically invisible," she said bitterly, her anger barely contained. As she continued pouring out her feelings, her fury became more palpable, and I started to feel uneasy. Although her anger wasn't directed at me, the intensity of her emotions was overwhelming. The veins in her neck pulsed like those of a bodybuilder lifting weights, and I wasn't sure I'd ever seen anyone, especially a woman, so consumed by rage. Still, despite her fury, she remained focused. She made copies of the receipts and handed them to me. "I hope this helps you," she said, though the fire in her eyes remained unquenched. "I have more evidence if you want to see it," she said in an icy tone. "Wait here. I have something that will definitely interest you." She stepped out for a moment, returning with a clear plastic bag in hand. Inside, I saw women's underwear. "Does this look familiar to you?" she asked sharply, holding it up in front of me. My eyes fell on the dull green bikini bottoms, which I immediately recognized from my wife's collection. "I found these in Michael's coat pocket after the last office party," she continued, her voice full of bitterness. "He searched the entire house trying to find them. He's been looking everywhere, in the closets, the car, but never once mentioned it to me. May I borrow them for a little while?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Sure, as long as you promise to return them," she responded coldly. "Deal." The next hour passed in a whirlwind of anger and accusations from Isabella Taylor. She was relentless, speaking non-stop as if caught in a furious outburst. Several times I tried to escape the conversation, but something kept pulling me back in, making me engage again and again. Finally, when she said she needed to rest, I took the opportunity to leave. As I gathered my things, I heard her mention that Michael hated using contraception and outright refused to use it. Later that evening, when Lily came home, dinner was ready. My stomach had been growling for hours, as I had skipped lunch. But Lily acted as if nothing in the world bothered her, just as calm and composed as ever, as though she was untouchable. And then everything clicked, why I hadn't suspected anything before. After dinner, I cleared the dishes and served her a couple of slices of lime pie, her favorite, along with freshly brewed coffee. The house was completely silent. "Lily, can I ask you a question without you getting upset?" I asked cautiously, breaking the silence. "Of course. Is it about the problem with the fireplace?" she replied calmly. "No, it's something else," I said, pulling out the gray-green bra that matched the panties I had seen earlier. "Where are the panties that go with this bra?" She barely glanced at it. "Probably in my drawer. Why are you rummaging through my underwear? What's going on? You're acting strange." "Can you bring them?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral, knowing she wouldn't be able to. Lily didn't look me in the eye, instead staring at her pie plate. I could see the tension building in her face, her expression hardening. Finally, she responded, "Actually, now that I think about it, I threw them out last week. The elastic was stretched, and I didn't see any point in keeping them." I leaned toward her slightly. "But Lily, you just bought them a few weeks ago. How could they wear out so quickly?" Her face grew even harder. Her lips quivered, and her fists clenched in frustration. It reminded me of the same tense moment I had just experienced with Isabella. "All right, genius," she snapped, her anger boiling over. "What do you think happened to my underwear?" "Last week before the office party I saw you put them on," I began. "You were wearing this bra and those same panties. I remember how great you looked. But when we got home that night, you went to the bathroom and I noticed the panties were gone. So, tell me, where did they disappear to between the time we left the house and came back?" Her face turned to stone. "You're mistaken. I was wearing them when we got home. You just didn't notice." "All right," I sighed. "Then maybe you can explain how they ended up in Michael Taylor's coat pocket." I pulled out the bag, giving her time to process what I was saying. Her eyes widened, a look of shock flashing across her face. "Where did you get this?" "From his wife, Isabella," I replied calmly. "Why? Does that surprise you?" "You bastard!" she hissed, her rage boiling over. "Mind your own business. There's nothing between me and Michael. I have no idea how my panties ended up with his wife." "Is there anything else you want to say?" I asked, keeping my composure. She glared at me viciously, her hands shaking with fury. "What do you want from me?" "Just one thing," I said quietly, pulling out a folded piece of paper. "Here's a little questionnaire I've put together for you. I need you to fill out this form," I said calmly, sliding the sheet of paper across the table towards her. "I just need the dates and locations where you met other men behind my back." My voice remained steady, though it barely masked the storm of fury brewing inside me. "Let's start with this." Lily sat in silence, her gaze fixed on the paper in front of her. I picked up a pen and wrote down the name of the motel and the date of her last meeting with Michael. Below that, I added his name and wrote the motel name again, leaving no room for misunderstanding. Then I noted the date. "Here," I said, handing her the pen. "Finish the rest, Lily. Once you're done, we'll continue this conversation." She remained motionless, her eyes still locked on the paper, unable to move or speak. She knew I had every reason to confront her. "And one more thing," I continued, my voice growing more irritated. "I'm furious not just because you cheated, but because neither you nor he bothered to use protection. Cheating is one betrayal, but not even thinking about the consequences? That's a whole other level. Did you ever think about what you could bring home to me?" My voice shook with disgust. "Was it only Michael, or were you just as careless with the others?" I asked, sarcasm seeping into my words. She hesitated for a moment before mumbling, "Only Michael. He didn't use anything." The weight of her words hung in the air between us. Her admission hit harder than I expected. It seemed even she hadn't grasped the full scope of what she'd said until it was too late. This mistake confirmed everything I needed to know. Michael wasn't the only one. Before I could respond, she shoved the paper aside, nearly knocking everything off the table, and ran out of the room. The soft click of the bedroom door closing was accompanied by the muffled sound of her sobs. That night, I didn't go back home. I found the nearest motel, rented a room, and told work I'd be taking a few days of sick leave. Keeping my word, I returned Isabella's lingerie. She was unusually silent this time, her face tense and uneasy. I didn't ask questions, just left, sensing her discomfort. I checked into a small, run-down motel that rented rooms by the week, complete with a basic kitchenette. As I drove past our house, I noticed Lily's car was gone and went inside to grab whatever I could carry. I bought some essentials, dishes, utensils, a few pots and pans, and within an hour, I had settled into my temporary hideaway. It was surreal. Just a week ago, nothing like this seemed remotely possible. As I walked back to my car, I noticed Michael Taylor a few parking spots away. He was unloading his belongings, moving into one of the motel rooms. I smirked quietly. That bastard was going through the same thing I was. Either Isabella had kicked him out, or he had left on his own. In the end, it didn't matter. The outcome was the same. Shortly after, Lily's car pulled into the parking lot. She didn't see me or my car parked nearby. She and Michael spoke for a few minutes before heading into his room together. Thinking they would be occupied for a while, I took the opportunity to go back home and grab the rest of my things. I packed my car to the brim. My computer, camera equipment, portable TV, CD collection, and even the George Foreman grill, everything I could fit. As I was unplugging the answering machine, there was a knock at the door. "Mr. Singh?" I opened the door to find two police officers. "Mr. Singh?" one of them repeated. "Yes," I replied, puzzled. "Are you Lily Singh's husband?" the officer asked in a serious tone. "Yes, that's me. Has something happened? Is she all right?" "I'm afraid we have some bad news for you, sir," the officer said, his voice calm but firm. "Your wife has passed away." "No," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "You must be mistaken. I saw her just a couple of hours ago. She was fine." "When did you last see her?" the other officer asked. "She was at a motel with Michael Taylor," I explained, still trying to process what they were telling me. "Mr. Taylor is dead too," the first officer added, his words hitting me like a punch to the gut. My mind struggled to make sense of it all. "How?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "They were shot," the officer replied bluntly. "Look, I've been here all day. I don't even own a gun," I protested, still in shock. The officer sighed heavily. "I understand this is hard to comprehend, Mr. Singh. Try not to take it too much to heart. There was a shooting. Mrs. Taylor opened fire on both of them as they were leaving his room. She fired, and then immediately called 911. When we arrived, she was sitting on the floor by the door, quietly crying. Are you sure you'll be okay? Or do you need someone to stay with you? No, honestly, I'll be fine. Thanks. Just a week ago, everything seemed perfectly normal. But now, everything had been turned upside down. I wanted revenge on the cheaters, but now there was no one left to take revenge on. I had become a widower. Lily paid a harsh price for her actions. All I could do was move forward and pursue my dreams, but with another woman. I hope she won't be like Lily. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. After 25 years of marriage, I had developed a sense for things left unsaid. Lately, Olivia had become distant, as if her mind was somewhere far away. A few times a month, she would explain that work was requiring her to stay late. Her interactions with the family seemed hollow, more like fulfilling obligations than showing affection. I convinced myself that it was temporary, perhaps just a natural fluctuation in her emotional state. But as time passed, that hope faded, and the signs became too obvious to ignore. I had to face reality, no matter how devastating it was. A close friend suggested I contact a private detective agency. They had a reputation for being discreet and reliable. I spent nearly an hour in their office, laying out my concerns, and by the time I left, a significant amount of money I had secretly saved no longer belonged to me. That money was originally intended for something else, a grand vacation to celebrate our wedding anniversary. But the joy of that plan had been overshadowed by a growing sense of unease. Instead of a surprise getaway, I spent the money on investigators to keep tabs on Olivia and report back if anything seemed suspicious. Everyone knew what suspicious meant. Was she seeing someone else? We talked in vague terms, trying not to make the subject more uncomfortable than it already was, but the meaning was clear. Later that week, Olivia casually mentioned, "I'll be working late again, Connor. Could you handle dinner for the girls? Don't wait up for me." She smiled as she picked up her handbag on her way out. I sat at the table, slowly stirring my cereal, and finally decided to ask the question. "Of course, Olivia. I trust you when you say you're working late. But when you're at work, is it still work, or are you being paid for something else?" My tone was calm, but the weight of the question hung heavy. She froze, her back to me, and the silence stretched out before she finally turned around. Her face showed no emotion, no surprise, no guilt, which in itself spoke volumes. If she were innocent, I would have expected shock, confusion, maybe even anger. "What are you trying to say, Connor? Are you accusing me of something?" she asked, her voice cold. "If it's work, then I'm being paid for it, aren't I?" "Maybe we should spend all that money on a new car," I responded sarcastically. Her reply was sharp. "And what exactly do you think I'm being paid for, Connor?" She went on the offensive, denying everything as if daring me to lay all my cards on the table. We had been down this road before. I knew her tactics. "You tell me, Olivia. Should I draw up a price list? $50 for a quick service, $150 for the standard? I've never paid for it before, but it seems like you've already done the math for me." Her eyes widened, clearly shocked by my bluntness. "You've lost your mind, Connor. You actually think I'm selling myself after work? You need help. You've crossed lines before, but this is a new low," I shot back. "So are you telling me there's no one else tonight?" "Not after this tirade, you idiot," she snapped. "No, not tonight, and not anytime soon." "Good to know," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "In that case, there's no reason for you to stay late at work, right? Since you're free, why don't you come home early for once and help with dinner?" She stood there, her mouth slightly open, at a loss for words. Finally, without saying anything, she turned and left the house. Later that evening, as I pulled the roasted chicken out of the oven, Olivia walked into the kitchen. Her expression had softened, as if something had shifted. "I guess I've been staying late too often," she quietly admitted. "You and the girls deserve more of my time. I'll try to be more present. By the way, dinner smells wonderful." She was still only 45, undeniably beautiful, but the emotional gap between us had never felt wider. In the early years of our marriage, her beauty seemed to blossom more with each passing day. She moved with such grace that it was impossible to take my eyes off her, and when she was in a good mood, it felt as if our home was filled with light and joy. The first 2 decades of our life together were full of love, happiness, and mutual understanding. But in the last 5 years, something had changed. She began to drift away, becoming more and more distant, a sharp contrast to the warm, loving woman I had once known. This sudden distance made the events of tonight especially hard for me. We had just finished a family dinner. I listened as our daughters chatted happily with their mother, their admiration for her evident in every word. Although they loved me, there was a special bond between them and their mother that I could never fully understand. For example, their endless conversations about shopping were like a mystery to me, one I would never solve, like water slowly dripping, testing my patience. They could talk about shopping for hours, and as usual, I mentally checked out. When the evening ended, we went to bed. Olivia slid under the covers in just her underwear, a clear sign that she wanted intimacy. But strangely, I felt nothing inside. "I thought we agreed that we wouldn't do this tonight," I reminded her. Her expression shifted slightly as she responded. "As far as I remember, you said you weren't interested lately. This morning, you said things that really hurt me, and it upset me." She sighed. "But thinking about it, maybe we're both just irritated. It's been so long since we spent time alone." After a brief pause, she continued, I know part of this is my fault, Connor. I hope you don't think I don't love you. I do love you. Her words caught me off guard. So you really do love me? I asked, trying to mask the doubts creeping into my voice. It's been more than 2 months since we were together. She blinked, surprised. You're really keeping track? She asked, stunned. I didn't realize it had been so long. I'll make it up to you tonight, I promise. Her smile was warm, but my thoughts were tangled. Do you really love me, Olivia? I asked again, this time with more insistence. She nodded. Of course I love you. You're the only man I've ever loved, and that won't change. Her reassurances did little to ease my growing anxiety. If you truly love me, you'll be faithful to me, right? Until the very end? I pressed, my voice trembling with emotion. Yes, of course, she replied, her eyes soft but confused. Why are you asking me this all of a sudden? This morning you immediately assumed I was accusing you of being unfaithful, I said, narrowing my gaze. And now it feels like you're thinking the same thing again. I need to know. Have you been faithful to me? Are you truly happy in our marriage? You're not looking for something or someone else, are you? Her face hardened, irritation creeping into her voice. Yes, I've been faithful. Yes, I love you. But I don't like these kinds of questions, Connor. You're ruining the moment. Her sudden change in tone only fueled my frustration. Ruining the moment? That's a serious accusation, I muttered bitterly. Without a word, I reached under my pillow and pulled out a manila envelope, tossing it to her. She hesitated for a moment, then took it, her hands trembling as she pulled out the photographs. Her face turned pale as she stared at the images, each one clear and undeniable. They showed her with Joseph Byrne, a local schoolteacher. The photos were so sharp and vivid that they left no room for excuses. Olivia quickly flipped through them before tossing them into the trash. Her eyes filled with tears, and she began to sob, her cries growing louder as the weight of the truth came crashing down on her. I remained silent, my emotions long drained, waiting for her to gather the strength to speak. After what felt like an eternity, her sobs subsided, and she finally spoke. Connor, it was just a meaningless affair. It meant nothing. I love you, not him. Please forgive me, she begged, her voice barely a whisper. Her words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. You just said that if you loved me, you'd be faithful, I said, my voice trembling with pain and anger. And now you're telling me that you love me, but you still betrayed me? How am I supposed to make sense of that, Olivia? She looked at me with tear-filled eyes, but no explanation came. Nothing she could say would undo the damage that had already been done. I lied because I thought it would shield you from the truth, she said, her voice steady, but her eyes darting nervously. It was only physical, nothing more. No feelings, no emotions. Just a meaningless act. That's all it was. So what you're telling me is that you betrayed me over a biological impulse I should just ignore? I replied sarcastically. Connor, please think before you do something rash, Olivia pleaded, her voice strained. This could ruin everything. Joseph could lose his job, and his marriage. His parents live practically next door, for God's sake. Oh, now you're thinking about the consequences, Olivia? Did it just now occur to you that this could all blow up? Or was that part of your plan from the start when you realized you'd get caught eventually? I snapped, feeling the anger rising within me. And when you both end up jobless, divorced, and humiliated, whose fault will that be? Tell me, Olivia, who's going to take the blame then? It's our fault. Mine and Joseph's, she broke down, her voice trembling under the weight of guilt. No one will ever blame you, Connor. Was it worth it? Was this fling worth the destruction? I pressed. If it wasn't love, at least was the physical part unforgettable. He wasn't better, she whispered, her voice barely audible. It was exciting, like the beginning of our relationship. But no, he's not better than you, just different. I'll tell him it's over. I swear I'll never see him again. I scoffed at her desperation. Do you really think I'm that naive? That I'll settle for being a side character in your exciting romance? I've had enough time to think, and I've made my decision, I said, my words laced with coldness. Her eyes widened in shock. Oh my God, you knew? How long have you known? Her face went pale. I've suspected for longer than you think. And if you're wondering, I stopped caring about 2 months ago. You didn't even notice, did you? That says a lot. If I hadn't lost my temper this morning, you'd still be sneaking around with Joseph, leaving me with scraps. Connor, this couldn't have lasted forever. I wasn't thinking clearly, she protested. It was just an affair, nothing more. Bold statement, Olivia. So tell me, how long do your little affairs last? A few months? A year? I asked, barely containing my anger. I never did this before, Joseph, she blurted out in her defense. I'm not some serial cheater throwing myself into random flings. I know it's hard to believe now, but I swear it's the truth. It was the first time, and it'll be the last. We both knew it couldn't go on forever. He'll understand when I tell him it's over, and I'll never speak to him again. And now you're making me the villain. Did I ever say I wanted you to end it? I asked, my voice sharp as a knife. What do you mean, Connor? It's over. I'll end it. You've seen everything. It's over. Please let me show you how much I love you, Olivia begged, her voice cracking. I've given you 25 years of my life, Olivia, and I'm still not convinced. How much more do I owe you? Another 40 years if I'm lucky. I don't know, she whispered, her voice full of despair. I don't know how long it will take. A few months, maybe a year. I'll do whatever it takes. Just give me a chance to fix this. Let this be a new beginning. For you, maybe, I responded coldly. But for me, this is nothing new. You've seen the photos. There's hardly anything left to hide, right? Maybe it would have been different with me, but you've already been through a lot. It must be hard for you to find something completely new, isn't it? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you already had a few tricks up your sleeve to surprise me, I remarked, adding a touch of sarcasm to my voice. Olivia's gaze lingered on my face as if she were trying to figure out whether I was serious or just playing with her emotions. Her eyes studied mine carefully, weighing the possibilities. But when she finally looked away, I realized that pushing her further would only lead to more problems. I couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that she believed she could convince me to let her back into my life, that even if she got caught, she would somehow talk her way out of it and return to my heart. You once said it would take us more than a year to fix everything. Do you really think I'm that naive, Olivia? Do you seriously believe I'm that easy to convince? You have no idea how much pain you've caused. The saddest part is, I know that revenge would only hurt everyone involved, and it's not worth it. I'm not going to stoop to that level. Her voice trembled slightly when she asked, What are you going to do, Connor? There was a note of panic in her words. I'm only a few years away from retirement, and Joseph's career is far from over. We need our jobs. I need you. The girls need you. And he loves his family too. Save your lectures for someone who isn't already aware of all this. Tonight, you told me that a man is faithful to the one he loves. By that logic, Olivia, it seems neither you nor Joseph care much about your spouses or families, judging by what you've said. Connor, please, you have to understand, she pleaded, her desperation growing. I love you with all my heart. It was just one mistake, a momentary lapse of judgment in over 25 years. You act like a mild rebuke will fix everything, and we'll just pretend nothing happened. Like lifelong fidelity is only meant for some mythical breed of superhumans, right? I shot back sharply, breaking through her defenses. So what's the plan, Olivia? And more importantly, what should I do next? I'll tell you how it's going to be, I began, not hiding the ultimatum in my tone. Either you agree, or we start the divorce process right now. Everyone, your family, my family, the school administration, will know about the affair between two married teachers. She sat there, motionless, digesting the weight of my words. You've had your fun, so go ahead and keep seeing him if you want. I won't stand in your way anymore. I don't want to be the one who leaves you unsatisfied again. For over 25 years, I've carried the burden of knowing I wasn't good enough for you. That weight has been on me for too long. So go ahead, see him like you used to. Just not in my house, and definitely not in my bed. That's the only condition. And you don't need to tell him that I know exactly who he is. Does that sound unreasonable to you? I asked sharply. Essentially, you'll continue your relationship, but now without the need to hide. You can be his lover, his woman, whatever you want. Just keep me informed about your plans. In return, I won't expose you. I'll help you keep your secret. Deal? You want me to keep seeing him? She asked, stunned. What kind of husband proposes something like this? Do you have some twisted fantasies or something? She added, clearly baffled by my offer. Maybe, I replied with a smirk, but that's no longer your concern. Let's just say, I'm not going to play the part you had planned for me. You thought I'd find out, wallow in self-pity, and eventually forgive you. But that's not happening. So, do we have a deal? I asked firmly. You'll keep lying to Joseph, but you'll never lie to me again. I won't reveal your affair as long as you stick to this agreement. This is insane, but I don't see another way, Connor, Olivia admitted, giving in. How long will we have to keep up this charade? About a year from now, or when I decide it's time to put an end to this, whichever comes first. I responded in a calm voice. Olivia looked at me, her eyes widening in shock. Fine, I'll agree to that, but no one will ever believe it, she said, almost in disbelief. And so the experiment began. I had thought about it for a long time. My love for Olivia had always been unconditional, but her betrayal cut me deeply. Still, kicking her out of the house would deal a severe blow to our children's lives, and it would even affect Joseph's family. I knew his parents, his wife, and his kids. My aim wasn't to destroy their lives. Plus, I left myself the option to leave on my own terms, if it came to that. Over the next few days, Olivia seemed nervous around me, which didn't surprise me. Patience had always been my strength. One evening, she mentioned that Joseph had suggested meeting her on Saturday. His wife was planning to take the kids to their grandmother's for the weekend. Since Joseph wouldn't be joining them, they would have time alone. We can figure something out, Olivia, I suggested. I could take the girls for the weekend, giving you the chance to spend the night with him. You two could have some time together. We'll just tell the girls you're busy with work. That could work, Connor, she agreed. Where are you planning to take the girls? I'm thinking the park, I replied thoughtfully. We could visit a museum, see Independence Hall, have dinner at a nice place, maybe even catch a show. On Sunday, we'll walk around the city and be back by evening. By then, Joseph will be gone, right? Connor, I'd prefer if you didn't talk like that, Olivia sighed. And why don't we do these things together when I have some free time? I like trips like that too. I stared at her, not breaking eye contact. Olivia, you're an adult, just like me. You made your choice. Joseph is part of your life now. You shouldn't be surprised, I said, my voice firmer than I intended. The weekend with the girls turned out to be even more enjoyable than I expected. They were thrilled when I suggested the trip. By Sunday, I had developed a new appreciation for my daughters. They were becoming intelligent, witty, and beautiful young women, and I realized how much of their lives I had missed. Their laughter, their thoughts. It all felt new to me. I made a decision to be more involved, to remain an important part of their lives. When we got home, Olivia was already waiting for us. The girls spent the next few hours enthusiastically recounting every detail of their weekend. I gave each of them $200 for clothes, but they eventually convinced me to double the amount to $300. It was then that I truly realized how persuasive they could be. Olivia seemed just as pleased as the girls proudly showed off their new purchases. Leaning back in my chair, I felt a quiet satisfaction as I listened to their stories. We quickly settled into a new routine. On the evenings when Olivia worked late, I watched movies with the girls or attended their school events. I became more involved in their lives, finally paying attention to what I had been missing while focusing on Olivia. There was something strange about it all. Despite everything that had happened, my relationship with Olivia improved. She started sharing more, not just about Joseph, but about work, the kids, and even random topics like politics. I behaved like her husband in every way, except in the bedroom, and who would know the difference? Even though our marriage was broken, there remained an unexpected bond between us. One night, as I was reading in bed, Olivia slipped under the covers beside me. She reached out, gently touching my body. I softly moved her hand away. Connor, do you want to make love? She asked, her voice barely audible. After some time, Olivia cautiously asked, "You're probably thinking about it right now, aren't you?" "Olivia," I began, "I can't keep pretending that this is a fair game. I'm constantly competing with someone who, even in his absence, fills the space between us. His presence is still felt, isn't it? I know you feel it just as much as I do." I sighed heavily and added, "If I tried now, it would only be out of a desire to outdo him. But the truth is, we've already accepted that I can't. You have your excitement with him and you're content, so don't worry about me." "That's not fair, Connor," she objected. "I never said he was better than you. He's just different, in a way that's thrilling, something you're not. But no one could ever replace you," she tried to reassure me, noticing my frustration. "Olivia, that's unconvincing," I retorted sharply. "If I were really enough for you, you wouldn't have gone back to him. Not once, not twice, and definitely not after you left me untouched for 2 months and I had to remind you." I paused, then continued, my voice more resigned than angry. "Honestly, I don't even think I could be with you now. Every time I imagine it, all I see is you giving yourself to him in a way you never did with me. And let's not forget, I've seen the photos. Look, we have this arrangement, and it seems to suit everyone, so let's not complicate things," I said, trying to keep my composure. Her expression showed she was stunned by my rejection, but the truth was I no longer wanted to be close to her. The mere thought of it repulsed me. In the following days, she was quieter than usual, more withdrawn. But over time, she seemed to accept what had happened between us. A few weeks passed. I was lying in bed, engrossed in a book, when Olivia brought up the affair again. "Connor, it seems like Joseph is starting to pull away," she said quietly. "He's been finding excuses to see me less. Honestly, I feel relieved. I miss you. And the girls." She looked at me for the first time vulnerable. "I'd rather be with you. When I'm with you, I feel cared for. With him, it's like I'm just an object, nothing more than a body. He doesn't care about the rest of me." "Funny," I replied without hesitation. "Just a few months ago, that didn't seem to bother you. You were bored with me, and Joseph seemed like the perfect solution. Need help finding someone else to bring the thrill back? I could suggest a few names." "No, Connor, I don't want anyone else," she whispered, her voice quiet, almost pleading. "The thought of being with another man makes me sick. I only want you." "Could I stop seeing him? Joseph doesn't care, and I could spend more time with you and the girls," she asked, hope evident in her voice. I hesitated before responding. "I don't know, Olivia. The girls and I have already settled into our routine. Your sudden re-entry into our lives might disrupt everything." "I won't ruin anything," she promised. "I'm still their mother. I have the right to be part of their lives, just like you. We're their parents, Connor. I'll be good, I swear. I'll behave with them and with everyone else." "It's not that simple," I warned. "If you stop seeing him, your relationship with Joseph will have to end completely, including the physical side, and you'll have to get tested. I've already done the tests. Fortunately, I'm clean. What about you?" "Do you think Joseph or his wife could have something?" she asked anxiously. "How would I know?" I replied. "The fact is, by being with you, I put myself at risk from everyone you, Joseph, and his wife have been with. That's a huge risk, Olivia. Does Joseph's wife have other partners? And Joseph himself? And you? Have there been others you didn't tell me about? You've lied to me before, so how can I trust that they're honest with each other? One thing I do know, Joseph definitely can't be." "Connor, you're exaggerating. They're adults, responsible people," Olivia insisted, trying to calm me down. "Sure, just like playing Russian roulette seems safe because there's only one bullet in the chamber. But that doesn't mean I'm going to pull the trigger. Lately, though, I've been holding up pretty well," I replied, keeping my voice steady but firm. "My relationship with the girls has grown stronger, and except for one obvious issue, life has been relatively stable. Maybe you should look at things from a new perspective. Get rid of the stress, change your appearance. You know, the things women do to refresh themselves and perhaps attract attention." "It's possible," I said, gently patting Olivia on the shoulder. "Connor, I'm done with him. I feel like a toy he uses and discards when it's convenient. There's no respect. He doesn't care about my needs or my feelings. Sometimes he even hurts me. And he doesn't even try to fix it, Olivia admitted, her voice full of frustration. Don't forget to buy some lubricant, Olivia. I'm not a cruel person. I want you to be comfortable, I added, my words cutting through the tension. Connor, I'm trying to put an end to this nightmare. That's another reason why I need to close this chapter in my life, she said, her voice tired, tinged with desperation. Even if everything had been perfect, it never brought me real happiness. But Olivia, this realization has come too late. You should have thought about the consequences before deciding to lie and cheat. Now you'll have to deal with the results, I replied, my tone becoming sharper. You made this bed, now lie in it, I added with reproach. This feels like emotional blackmail, Connor, pure and simple. It's beneath you. I'm your wife, Olivia said, her voice hurt but firm. It's manipulation, I admit that. But don't you dare lecture me on what a husband should be. Try it, and I'll make sure you leave before you finish your sentence. I've spent 25 years trying to be the best partner and father I could be, and you destroyed it all, I responded harshly. You ruined our marriage, so don't tell me how it should work. Do you understand me? I asked, my voice now cold and unwavering. Olivia was stunned by my outburst, her face drained of color. She stood silently for a few moments before finally speaking. You're right, Connor. I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. All this mess is on my conscience, not yours. I understand that now, she acknowledged, her eyes filling with tears. Days passed, and nothing really changed, until one evening after dinner, Olivia asked the girls to stay at the table. Girls, I need to tell you something. I haven't been honest with you. I cheated. When I said I was working late, I was meeting with someone else. I put my marriage with your father in jeopardy. I want to apologize, to him and to both of you. I let you all down. If I could fix it, I would, but I can't. It's over, and I'm asking for your forgiveness, she finished, her voice trembling. I didn't expect her to confess like that. Her words felt like a punch to the gut. The girls were stunned, silently staring at their mother in disbelief. Then, without a word, they both ran to their rooms crying, leaving me sitting there in shock. This is the only way to deal with blackmail, Connor. Now I see it. I won't fool around anymore. Everything you've said has finally sunk in. I've broken things off with Joseph for good. Funny enough, he didn't even care. I meant nothing to him. But it doesn't matter because he meant nothing to me either. We were just two people acting like animals, driven only by instinct without real feelings, Olivia said, wiping her tears, her voice sounding calmer than before. I understand that you may still decide to report us to the school board or inform Joseph's family. That choice is entirely in your hands. But I'm no longer willing to humiliate myself. It seems you once described me exactly like that. Whether you stay or leave, I'm determined to regain my self-respect, even if it costs me everything else. Lately, my anxiety about my health has been so overwhelming that I haven't been able to sleep at night. I've scheduled a doctor's appointment for Friday. I made a terrible mistake, one I'll regret for the rest of my life. You're completely right to hate me, to want to crush me, divorce me, and find someone you can respect again. That is your choice, Olivia sobbed, her voice trembling under the weight of guilt. All I can do is beg, no, ask for a second chance to stay in your life. But I know you may not be ready to give me that. Only now, after everything that's happened, do I realize how much I love you and how far I've strayed from who I was before I made this awful choice, she said, barely whispering. I no longer have a clear sense of where to go from here, I replied, struggling to contain my emotions. The girls are having a hard time right now, and we need to focus on them. My own pain is beginning to fade, and that scares me because I'm starting to wonder if, along with the pain, my love for you is fading too, Olivia. I'm glad you're taking care of your health, and I'll support you in any way that's needed for that. But I can't promise that everything will be okay. In fact, I don't believe it will, I added, feeling the weight of the uncertainty that lingered between us. It's all on my conscience. I know that. It's tearing me apart inside, Olivia said, her voice wavering. I created this mess, Connor. We need to move slowly, I advised gently. We must be cautious and not act out of the anger or pain we're feeling. This betrayal may be something we can't survive, I admitted, but your willingness to be honest is a start. Did you ever think it would end like this? That I would risk everything just to stop feeling like a worthless woman? Olivia asked, tears streaming down her face, her words filled with regret. I hoped you would find a way to regain your pride, but I wasn't sure you could. It will take a long time before I can believe this has happened, if I ever can. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully trust you again, I confessed, and that painful truth hit me as hard as it did her. I walked over to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and opened it. Olivia remained seated at the table, quietly crying. Our lives had become a tangled mess of pain and misunderstanding. We're getting divorced, Olivia. You'll lose your job, respect, and family. Many people already know about your betrayal. I wanted you to understand that you mean nothing to Joseph. You're a foolish woman who's lost everything for an affair. Goodbye, Olivia. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.